Welcome to the Life Currency Podcast. I'm your host, Bob Lozano, a show that explores success, growth, and opportunity in the restaurant industry. A restaurant podcast by restaurant people, powered by F&P Media. Welcome back to Life Currency, everyone. Today is a very special day. I get to sit down with somebody that I've known my whole entire life, my dad. Today, we're unpacking Robert Lozano's story, and it feels like just yesterday that I was raiding his cupboard in his office over in Far Texas, looking through the books and through the lanyards from all the conventions and meetings that he would attend, or how about his red iconic DQ button-up shirt that he still wears today. Those are some of the fondest memories I have of my dad, and today we get to sit down and hear more about his story. So thank you for being here, Robert, Dad. I know we use both, but take us through. Do you remember your first day working at a Dairy Queen, and what did you feel like that day?
Well, of course I remember my first day, but even before that, I mean, what a special opportunity to get to be here today. Reflecting back to where this all started and what we're doing here today is wow, it's awesome. It's a real privilege. And yeah, I know we told ourselves, I think it came from you that you said that we're Robert at work and we're Dad at home. So where are we right now?
Advisors told us that.
This is a little bit of work and a little bit of home, right? So very first memories of life in the DQ world takes me back to our high school where your mom and I met way back in the 80s. Time has clicked on by, but yeah, working down at the Fremont Dairy Queen, had a super manager, tough manager. Both Laurie and I worked under her. We didn't work in the restaurant. A lot of people think that we worked at the restaurant together at the same time. We really didn't. The ownership was probably a little smarter than that. They knew that we were already kind of a thing, boyfriend, girlfriend. And I started as a cook. And then Laurie started in the business. And we kind of worked opposite of each other. When she was in the restaurant, I was doing maintenance stuff and working for the family. My very best friend happened to be the son of the Bowens, which were our mentors and had a very, very big impact in our lives, but they were the owners there. And that's where it all started. That's what the memories that come back there and the things that I remember are the fun things that you've probably heard me tell before, but where you're making an ice cream cone and you dip it and then you put it in front of the cash register and push the buttons because they all used to be buttons. They weren't electronic. And you push the button and boom, the drawer comes out and the cones go on the floor and you're going, what happened? Or they told you to put mustard on the corn dog. I was a cook back there and they said, put mustard on the corn dog. And I took the corn dog and shoved it into the mustard and put it inside the little bag. And they meant put a little paquetito, a little package of mustard in the packet. I don't know.
Put the whole damn corn dog in there.
Yeah, I don't know if I had told you that, but
I had not heard that one.
Wonderful memories, really good times, and it's really those first days at work, those first opportunities for having a real job and getting a paycheck and stuff are really foundational for a young person. So. Yeah, those are great memories.
Yeah, man, that's a great story. I had not heard the mustard story. That's really, really good. I think I had heard the cones one time because that was kind of a common problem, but that you can just picture those after being in the business so long. You can just picture exactly those moments. That's really cool. What was? Do you remember exactly what your first job was? You mentioned maintenance. You mentioned Dairy Queen. I know there was churches, but what was the first job like?
No, I started as a cook.
As a cook,
yeah. Mm-hmm. They would put you in a position, and you were either front or back. And I don't know, there was girls or ladies, females in the back or guys in the front. But us guys, young guys, for some reason, put them on the cook line. That's where we started. Back in the day, we breaded our own steak fingers and our own dudes.
Oh man, that sounds delicious.
It's that's where I started. Yeah.
So the cook at the Dairy Queen, and then how long after that did you move over to churches?
Well, yeah. the Bowens, the family, they had a chicken store. They had gotten into the chicken business aside from owning some Dairy Queens, several Dairy Queens, right? And you mentioned churches. That came later. The Mr. Bowen had something called Uncle Bob's Country Fried Chicken.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
There
Yeah.
in Falfurrias, yeah. And I think he may have done that as a defense strategy towards because churches was coming at one time, if I'm remembering right. But lo and behold, instead of competing against them, he joined them. He became a franchisee. And yes, you'll remember, and you've heard the story that after working for the family at the Dairy Queen, um, I did have a span of time in the food business, a pretty good length of time with them in churches, but that was after. You
That's
may not
right.
remember that
Yeah.
was after high school, and I graduate. I go off to college. I work for the state for a few years, and everyone's heard the joke, but the family would really wonder, what the heck are you and Laurie doing? I mean, you have a job with the state of Texas, because I got a degree, and I was a computer programmer, and then a systems analyst one, a systems analyst two, there in San Marcos, and working at the university, and it was a job working for the state of Texas. And we left that to go cut chickens in Hondo, Texas. That was the joke. But yeah, that's what we did. But we really wanted to learn about business. We wanted to understand, um, and having the inspiration from our mentors, from the Bowens, and watching that family business and the dynamics of that. We were inspired to want to be in business from very early on. We weren't sure that it would be the food business, but we thought, what better way to learn about business than to join, get back in. And that's what we did. After graduating from college and working for a while, we went back to work for Mr. and Miss Bowen as managers. And because when it all started, I wasn't a manager, I was a cook.
Yeah.
And then, we learned to work the front area and work all aspects of the Dairy Queen before I went off to college. But that's kind of how all this really started rolling.
That's very interesting. I'm curious to know, and I want to ask you. Maybe I've asked you, but there's been a common theme as I've looked to you as my dad, but surrounding yourself with good people, or people that kind of open your eyes a little bit more. Was that something that y'all just kind of caught on to and experienced by coincidence, or did somebody tell you, hey, was grandma telling you, Mijo, go be around those people, or just learn something? Or where did that come from, that you put yourself in those what I call opportunities to open your mind a little bit?
Yeah. I don't know that I've sat around and reflected on that very much. People along the way began to kind of ask, what y'all are doing something right. Your business has flourished and it's grown. And I mean, we've just been, as you know, but you've lived it with us. We've just been so incredibly blessed, right? And so, to answer your question, and going back then,
You're going to say we've been working hard for a long time.
No, but
Yeah.
And some of the story, occasionally, my nature was to not want to say, not want to talk, and then somewhere along the way, I remember somebody specifically telling me, "Why wouldn't you? I mean, why wouldn't you talk? After all, it's not about you. It's about sharing what you did and what you're doing. And imagine if you impact somebody's life, like somebody impacted yours." And that really stuck with me. And so when I say, some of this, the where we grew, we were just, I don't know how else to say it. I mean, super ordinary. As you know, your mom grew up in a single one bedroom house, 6 happy children, and mom and dad. And I was with my mom and my stepfather, your grandpa, my biological dad and mom. Well, they divorced when we were really young. I must have been around 3 years old or something. And I bring that I'm sharing the story because it's part of the story, but to say that, I don't know, somewhere early on in my mind, uh, nothing seemed to be, there wasn't the negatives. There was trying to look at things positive. And yeah, I was so influenced and so blessed that, I had multiple dads, or I had multiple sets of grandparents, and all of them added. And yes, along the way, one of the things that I noticed, and I still do it today, of course, this, uh, being my kid, my son, but I hang on a lot to dichos, to those little short messages that have so much impact. And so along the way, uh, you know, anything from as simple as the early bird gets the worm to, the lengthier ones in Spanish and stuff, those have really resonated with me, and I've tried to listen to them, and I actually preach them. You know that better than
Yeah, I
anybody.
know them very, very well. I'll tell you, I'm going to push that a little closer to you.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one of the ones that I know very, very well is Rise and Shine. You don't have to shine, but you got to rise every day.
Yeah,
That was
that's the way we used to wake y'all up for so
Yeah.
many years. But yeah, so yeah, getting back to your question, there was so many people that influenced us, and absolutely, some of the biggest influencers in my life were my paternal, grandpa and grandma Lozano, of course, because that's the home I grew up in until I moved over. That was in Beeville, Texas, and then I move over because I want to know my mom
Mhm.
and live with her and my brother. And so at the time, their Papo, your grandpa, or my stepdad, really instrumental in my life. He was a pipe fitter up in Houston, and so I went off to Houston to go live with them and did a year or two up there, and um, then came and went 1 year to live with my dad. Dad was a military man. He served his country. I always thought I would do that. That was very impactful also to know and to watch grandma, watch him go off. And he'd come, when he was done with his tours and wherever he was at, in Vietnam, Germany, whatever, um, come back. But I knew that to be dad. And I thought, that might be a path for me. It didn't work out. When I was a freshman in high school, I did join ROTC, and I loved the structure, and I loved the the teachings from that type of an environment. But then I decide to move to be with my mom again after being with grandpa and grandma for a few years. And I come to where my life started, Fremont, Texas. And that's where I meet your mom, and kind of where I went to work for the Bowens and started at the Dairy Queen. So that kind of tells how this all happened. And again, one of the reasons that I think it's important to, or I want to share, if you ask me, and if somebody watches this, one individual sees this, is because hopefully there's this realization or this connection that we matter, and great things happen to people when you believe in yourself.
Yeah.
And I think it was through Laurie and her parents where it still resonates today that you're that in teaching them and teaching their children, there's Laurie and her siblings, your aunts and uncles, uh, you're not better than anybody, but you're just as good as anybody. I mean, if you believe in yourself, you can get out there. And so anyway, we believed, and away we went. And sometimes, Laurie says that it was our ignorance or our arrogance that got us into some of the things we did. But yeah, a little sense of belief in yourself, and maybe it sounds a bit of arrogance, but no, we believed we could, and we believed that we deserved, and we believed in in whatever it is we were trying to do. And so every day, one day, that's just kind of how this has unfolded.
Yeah, it's so fun to reflect a little bit, and so fun to think back a little bit. I think that I've had the opportunity now, a little bit older, but you hear people say, one day I'm going to be somebody. And I think it was always a response or like a reaction to say, you are somebody today. Maybe you'll do more, maybe you'll do something different. But I think that sense of purpose and pride that y'all had at a young age it just keeps the engine moving a little bit,
Yeah.
and you don't get down in the dumps. And y'all have taught me that as well. So that's really cool. Very cool, Dad. Well, you mentioned a lot about the people and grandparents, family, et cetera. And I would couch that a lot as, you were taking in a lot of life currency along the way, right? And trying to learn from others. And I think it's important that we stop and reflect on this episode, at least to share how life currency came about. And so I don't know, maybe I owe you a thank you or something. But as the team was putting this together, we went through a lot of names, and I think we were pretty close on some names for the podcast, and said, okay, this is what we're doing. And I think someone said, life currency. What does that have to do with restaurants? And I said, I don't give a shit. It has to do with my dad and his story and what he's taught us, and it's us, right? And so it's something that's helped me, and it's something that obviously have helped you. And so I think it's so powerful. But let's just stop for a moment and I want to ask, life currency, the two words, and when did that start, and when did you introduce that to yourself or your team? And fast forward to today. Thanks for supporting us and letting us call the podcast Life Currency.
Well, I remember when you mentioned this dream, this vision, and what you were trying to accomplish here with the Life Currency podcast. And I remember asking you, life currency, where did that come from? Where is that? And you're like, yeah, duh, of course, Dad. I listened, and that's something I want to pause and just say, you did listen, and I couldn't be prouder. So, when you're reflecting on your story and you're talking, especially here with your kid, with your son, some of it can't help but have some emotion.
Yeah,
the emotion
no.
creeps up on me. So sorry about that. So life currency, you dial back and you're in there and you're mopping the floor with your team members, and you're
one time real quick. We're like, let's go.
Well, Mom's not here to keep that going. She's always been the cheerleader in the background. That you're working, right? And you remember doing that as an employee. Now you're doing that as, you're the owner. You're the owner. And then one led to two, and two led to five, and you're the owner. And you're asking people to come in and to make a difference. Because you know what? This job, as you know, it's real hard, especially when you're 17 years old. It's your first job, and you're having to do. Anybody who's ever worked at a McDonald's, by the way, shout out to the local McDonald's and Fred and all the people that anybody who works in this industry. I saw that you did a podcast with him. I thought that was so awesome. I learned so much there. But back to life currency. Anybody who's been in this business, when you're serving the public and you're given something that they consume, I mean, that's pretty intimate. They're taking this and they're eating it. That's important. But then you're doing it at, back in the day anyway, 99 cents, the burgers and things, and the pay at what it was, certainly better than when I started, but still not very much. And that's where this starts. That's where life currency started. I mean, I really would. Laurie and I, your mom and I, we'd go home. She'd work one restaurant, I'd work another. We'd meet. We'd come back home, and we talk about our team, and we talk about our team members. It's hard to say employees. We've always called them a member. We're a member of a team, right? And you see what these young people do. You see what a team member does, and we always had this sentiment, this feeling that we can't pay them enough. Well, there's just no way that we will ever be able in this industry. The numbers don't work out. You'll remember, and I taught you, the percent situation. There's 100 pennies in a dollar. And if hopefully 31 of those pennies, I say hopefully because sometimes it's 32 of those pennies or 34 or 36 of those pennies go to buy your food. And so much of it goes for electricity and everything else you do in business. Well, certain number of pennies go to pay people. And so you could pick out a person or two people, but when you start having 10 and 20 and 100 and 300 and 500 employees, team members, you recognize, wow, we could never pay them enough. So consequently, we started feeling very, very, there was a sense of obligation. There was this, how do we pay them enough? And you think back to what happened when you worked and when you were at the Dairy Queen, and you remember some of the things that people did for you. And really, they did. They paid you along. They were paying you outside of what you got with your check. And like people say, what are you talking about? No, they're paying you. They're teaching you. Hey, if I tell you to show up and your shift starts at 10 a.m., don't be here at 10:05. Don't be here at 10:01. It's 10 a.m. That's life currency. And so what all the things, the basics, super basic stuff. And it's actually some things that I've even recently talked to some people here at our local community college, STC. Super hats off to all the great work that they're doing there about how can we take some of these concepts and actually, spread it and do more. But back then it was take these basics that we can do in our industry with our team members and give that to the team member, teach them, show them, and pay them with life currency. Yeah, that's how that came up. It was this idea that we can't pay them with dollars enough, with dollars and cents, but we can pay them with this currency that's going to help them in life. And that's how it came up. And yeah, I learn a lot and bring and copy and learn from others and stuff, and not the originator of a lot of things. But I do think that life currency, we came up with that in just a discussion with your mom and I.
Very neat. Well, there you go. You heard it from the man himself, life currency. It's been a powerful thing in my life for sure. Sometimes it's like drinking out of a water hose. I get so much life currency.
Too much, too quick.
No, well, one of the cool things.
I'm going to interrupt a bit because when I was asking you the question about with your podcast, well, what the heck? What is? And you said you listened. There was a part that I wasn't catching here, and it's really a concept that it's a little bit different for the average business. You're selling something, right? And you're supposed to be getting something in return for it and stuff. But you're telling me when you're doing your podcast and you're doing life currency, I'm like, why do you call it life currency? I remember, you remember what you told me, right?
Yes,
not to put you on the spot, but it was, well, like what y'all did. You were giving things away.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. You're sharing with people, that somebody that may watch this. You say it's, of restaurant people, by restaurant people, for restaurant people. Well, your podcast is, giving the life currency, sharing whatever we know, share with somebody.
Yeah, we talk a lot about trajectory, and I think that time goes by quicker than we'd probably like it. And sometimes if we can hear the right thing and it sets us on a different trajectory, you look up 5 years down the road and you're in a different spot, right? Or maybe you're around different people, and I think that makes a big difference. So I love that we stop to just acknowledge that. So thank you for that. And it's been a great journey. I mean, you mentioned Fred and others. I mean, I think we all innately want purpose in our life, and we're I think we're just happier when we have purpose and we're purpose driven. And I think that as we look at our business, so much of it can become just monotonous and just the everyday grind or the restaurant grind. And I think you rob yourself of the opportunity to find the beauty in the business, which is being able to impact someone's life, and being able to have a manager that's either going to set you on that right trajectory or not, and I think a lot of that little difference is life currency, right? And giving that to them. So
absolutely.
Really neat stuff. Well, you mentioned the business and you mentioned getting into business. So whose idea was it, mom or dad's?
Wow. I don't know that I know specifically that it was one or the other. We had this idea um, very early on. I mean, people have heard this story before, and I'll share it here. But very early on, they say like, "Well, how did y'all do it? Where did you get the money?" And um, well, one thing is way back then, the opportunities, it wasn't as many dollars as it is today. Geez, trying to open, as you well know, as you're doing now, trying to open a new store today or to even an acquisition and stuff. I mean, gosh, the dollars are it's crazy. But back then, yeah. So your mom and I, we both worked at the Dairy Queen. I was at that time, once she started working. Remember, this is pre-college, so back in high school. Now she's working at the Dairy Queen. I'm even as I go to college, I come back home, whether in the summers or breaks and stuff. And the Bowens gave myself and my buddy Ron, their son, a job. When we were patching parking lots, we were painting the backs of the stores, we were taking all the booths out of the dining rooms and buffing the floors, whatever it was. That's the part I call maintenance, repairs and maintenance and stuff. And so as we were doing that, we started saving money, and we started saving our coins. Your mom played tennis, and we had a tennis can and started putting money in this tennis can. And yeah, these two young people, we told each other, well, we know we like each other. We know that, yeah, we want to be together and go forward together. I'm going to go off to college here before too long, but we're gonna build a life together. And I did. I came up with this. So maybe I'm the one who got us started, because I said when we fill this tennis can up, um, we'll get married. And so that wasn't starting the business, but it was the idea that we wanted to save. And that goes back to some of the details, or some of the, uh, uh, a penny saved. So we were saving our pennies, our nickels, dimes, and quarters, but I didn't want the tennis can to fill up because I didn't want to get married. So I turned the coins into bills and shoved them down the tennis can, because I wanted to finish school first. I wanted to graduate. And we had $18,000 in that can when we were 23 and or so years old, and came to buy our first store. And we came to buy our first store after having left college, like I said earlier, working for the Bowens in a different role, management role, supervisor role, and then the opportunity to buy our first store here in the Rio Grande Valley came about. And I came home and told her that I met a gentleman here in the valley. I had come to a meeting on behalf of the Bowens, and I met a gentleman that owned the Far Dairy Queen. And I told your mom that I told him that if he ever thought of selling it, to please give us a call. And a week later or so, he called, and that's how this all started. And having that money in the tennis can, having a paid off old 69 Chevrolet automobile, and a paid off mobile home, and no debt, helped us to be able to be in a position to buy our first store. Now, no question, it couldn't happen again back to the Bowens without Mr. and Miss Bowen. They actually, the local bank wouldn't loan us the money next door. They didn't know us. I don't blame them. And speaking of bank, thank you. Somebody put a nice little cup here, Greater State Bank. That's really nice.
It's one of our favorites.
Yeah. But that's a whole nother thought or story. But yeah, the Bowens, they co-signed our first note for us, and we had it all paid off and our obligations met under 2 years. And that's how we all got started. So we both did it, and certainly every part of this has been together with your mom and I, still to this day, as you know. When nothing happens without her knowing 100% what's going on. And she has that extra sense to know. And through the years, she's been super active, involved, originally in the restaurants all the time and stuff. And then later, as y'all started growing up, and we realized that, dedicating a little more time with you and your sister, Lensda, and the family, that became important. So she filled that role more. But that's how it all got going. And maybe it was me when I
Yeah.
came back and said, "Hey, I told the guy, if you ever think of selling, please give us a call."
Hell yeah, that's awesome. I love just putting all that together. I mean, we talk about penny profit, right? And I mean, you're scrounging everything up to just get the engine going, and that just must have been an exciting but nerve wracking but fun time in y'all's life. Let's fast forward to the first, let's just call it 5 years. But do you remember anything that um, maybe was funny or something that happened that y'all kind of look back on and be like, "Damn, what were we thinking?" or anything like that?
Well, I remember early March of 1987. It's the first store, so this is not. It's right at the beginning of those first 5 years, but it's just trying to get the first dang store opened up. And we had bought the store. We broke down all the equipment and polished it up and cleaned it real well, made sure everything was spotless and ready to go because it had a big sign out there, reader boards, uh, under new management. And we had already been up and down the streets, beating the streets, passing out coupons and meeting people there on Cage and Far. And we invited everybody over. We had a school that uh, they said that they would come over and stuff. And so there was a lot of people. Well, right when this thing is going on, I don't know what we did for that dang old Duke ice cream machine, but right as we're getting going, we had been going 30 minutes. All of a sudden, there's smoke in the behind the counter and stuff. Well, um, I think maybe we shouldn't have broken the machine down and cleaned it up or something because we froze it up, and the belts is what were smoking. They were going round and round. And it created a disaster. And all of a sudden, in our first day of business, we can't sell ice cream.
Oh shoot!
So, fortunately, one of the local, Mr. Doherty, that owned the stores back then in McAllen that we didn't own, obviously, then, we had met him, and I was able to get over and get a belt and get us going, and we were back in business later that evening. But um, yeah, that's kind of the way this all kicked off. That first, probably 2 weeks later, our compressor went out on top of the roof of the big AC unit that we had, and that was like, oh my gosh, the walk-in cooler. But remember, this was a pretty old facility that really didn't have much. And you know what? The public came from the get-go. I mean, they were very, very. We've always been grateful. They were very
Yeah.
responsive. Of course, didn't have the competition that we have today and such, but yeah, things took off right from the beginning. And yeah, another little funny thing that I don't know if I've told you this before, but people say, "Well, how did you get the next store and the next store?" Well, we only had the one store, and it hadn't even been a year. And that gentleman, Mr. Doherty, that owned stores in McAllen and the store in Edinburgh, because remember, Dairy Queen had come already. Some people think that we brought Dairy Queen, or no, the Rio Grande Valley had Dairy Queens way back into the, I think, late '60s, early '70s for sure. And a lot of them had already been here. And uh, anyway, Mr. Doherty had some, and I've always chuckled. We've always remembered that Mr. Doherty, he approached us. He lived in McAllen. He had 3 stores in McAllen. No, I take it back, 2 stores in McAllen. And he asked us if we would buy his Edinburgh store on East University, our store number 2. And I said, Mr. Doherty, we don't have that kind of money. There's no way we can do that. And I said, but why do you want to sell it? And he goes, well, because I leave McAllen in the morning and I'm looking straight into the sun the whole way I'm going to the Dairy Queen. And then when I leave in the afternoon, in the evening to go home, there's that sun looking straight at me. And I always thought, that's the funniest thing, Thank God for the sun, because that's what prompted Mr. Doherty to want to sell.
That's wild.
But then we worked a deal with him where we were able to buy the store. And yeah, it's been just great along the way. But this idea that, yeah, we can, and also learning this thought, or why not? Why not have a second one or a third one? And just always, leaning forward has served us well. But we've also balanced things. And when I say we, of course, now all of us as a family, but back then, your mom and I, where, we talked with each other. it's real funny though. That's another thing that's kind of funny is I'd be all hot and excited about, yeah, we got to do this. And she'd be totally cold and like, nah, we don't need to do that. And then there's times when, and it seems like we were opposite of each other, but it would come down and we would balance each other and take a good positive step. And that's something that we've tried to teach and preach some, that even to people who work with us and stuff is, come on, we're all climbing this ladder, if you will. We're all trying to progress, right? Trying to do better. And you want to take steps up. You can always take steps up. Every now and then, take steps sideways. But, what do you mean you quit? What do you mean you stop? You're just going to go backwards. I'm like, no, don't do that. Hold on and make sure you got a good solid place to put your next step. And that's the way we've approached things.
Yeah, love it. I was looking for Andrea out there. We don't know anything about hot and cold. It's great. No, it's great stories. I love storytelling because I think we learn a lot through stories, and I think we can also empathize a little bit. And sometimes I think we see or look across, or whether it's family or friends, but you just see people when you see them, but you don't see everything in between, right? And so you've had a lot of in between stuff go on, and so gets us to today, and it's just been a great story. I'm a fan of the story. I know you're my dad, and I always tell people, it's my dad. I mean, no, well, I said I speak highly of them as people, but also lucky that he's my dad, so that's kind of cool. So something that I've often said, which is cool. But yeah, let's fast forward to today and see, is there anything that sticks out that you might tell your younger self that you might have overlooked, or something that you wish you kind of, not regrets, but something that maybe would have helped you out, that maybe you can now see that you didn't see then?
Yeah. Some things come to mind, and I've tried to share those things with you. Back to some of my dichos, an old tongue loves to wag. I could have and probably should have been a little bit more deliberate about knowing that dicho and asking more questions. I was very inquisitive, and I did. Some people would tell you, now that I think about it, that I asked too many questions. But I say that to people that are come and ask me for advice and stuff. I said, you know what, that's really pretty smart.
Mm-hmm.
The old tongue loves to wag. In other words, somebody who's been down the path, who has a little wisdom, who has some experience. Generally speaking, they're willing to talk.
Mm-hmm.
If you'll just lean forward and ask, And so we did a fair amount of that, but I think I would have done even more of that along the way. I think you can't get enough of that. And then you've heard me say this also your whole life, if you want to learn to lay bricks, talk to a bricklayer. And so what is it that you're trying to do? And hopefully that's what this is about, that someone may be listening to my story, to our story, to what we're talking about here on the Life Currency podcast, but that it plants a seed, or it tells them something. Well, you know what? I have some questions about that, and I know somebody who knows something about that. I just got to go ask them about it. And so doing that and even more of that, I think, is something that would be beneficial to all of us, myself included.
I love it. And just to be very literal, you want to lay bricks, talk to a bricklayer. If you want to go from cook to, entrepreneur, talk to Robert Lozano. And, and I know there's many other Robert Lozanos or other people, right?
Absolutely.
It's not about us being different, but go find that person and go ask them. And I think it's important. We also love the idea of the podcast as well, because for our own team, we don't have the time, unfortunately, to talk to, 900 people every other day, right? Or 1,000 people, whatever the number is. And it's a neat way to be able to allow people to hear stories that are real stories from real people that are really making it happen. And so hopefully they do take a bit of this and think on it and reflect on it and then go ask those right questions. Yeah. Love that, Dad. That's really cool. Well, let's fast forward a little bit here. What I get it, right? We've talked a lot about this with how you started in the business and where the business and the industry is today. But How does make? I think we share the same belief. Stick to the basics, right? Do the basics well. Focus on good product. Focus on good quality service. But how do you look at the industry today versus how you looked at it? Maybe let's not go so far back, but 10 years ago. And how is it different?
Yeah. Well, one thing for starters is just knowing that it is different, and the speed at which things change now, from technology to um, our specific industry, is it just seems to be faster and faster. Yes, the basics are there, particularly in our industry. Love what you've done with the business, from us, selling conitos and me thinking of ourselves that way. But you're saying we're really food and people. That's our core competencies. That's what we know. That's what we understand. We understand food and we understand people. Um, and staying focused on that and making sure that we're giving the customer uh, great products, like you said, but it's evolving and it's happening so fast. And even like what we're doing right here, what are a couple of guys that are in the food and people business
Yeah.
sitting down doing this podcast? Well, because I've bought into your vision. I believe in what it is that you're trying to accomplish here, and understanding how, yeah, I'm still today. I was at a function today, to be part of the community and talk to people and shake hands and be out there visiting. It was the state of the city with here in McAllen, terrific event. There representing on behalf of the Regional Mobility Authority as chairman. But what you're doing now, and the way that things have changed and evolved, and you're doing it in the same way, but doing it digitally, and that resonates. It makes sense, but it the average person, I'm frankly not seeing that. I'm seeing, how do I, doing what I'm doing every day. But you got to evolve. You got to stay with it and understand that the world is changing, and it's changing really fast. And truthfully, I'm supposed to be the one with the wisdom. But I'm also learning, always listening, always looking for, that curiosity that I said I had very early on hasn't gone away. I still have it. I'm still wanting to learn and hear. And, this has been a whole lot, not because you're sitting in front of me, but it's the truth. You've helped evolve us and keep us up to speed with what's happening out there and staying abreast of that. So,
yeah, well, thank you for that. It's interesting, right? But I think a lot of things double as multiple efforts, right? Including this. I hope that somebody in the industry listens to this and says, "Hey, they seem like good couple ice cream guys. Maybe I can go sell ice cream with them, right? Or make some sandwiches, or." So it's a recruiting aspect. It's a different way to keep us relevant. I think leadership, you've always taught me. I mean, you've got to be vulnerable as a leader, and so putting yourself in these uncomfortable situations, or take the questions head on, or be able to share who you are, and another, we can talk about details all day, but you're like, come look in my closet, right? You've always said that, right? And so this is a way to be able to say, look, man, this is who we are, and if you like what you see or hear over here, then come find a spot, and let's keep pushing, pushing it and see how far we can take it. So that's cool. I love it. I really, really, really love it. It's good stuff. The so many different directions I want to go in, but you already touched on a few. One, I'll just take this opportunity to share that I don't know if you've seen, but we did start our newest channel, Pillar Mindset. Obviously, that comes from 3 pillars. You probably remember that. We talked a lot about that. They've evolved a little bit, but leadership, capability, and non-negotiables. And, I think it's important that as we get into that, I want to just say that a lot of what you're talking about here will probably migrate to that channel, and we'll deep dive and say, okay, well, how does that tennis can and a car and a mobile home work, and how does that play into getting yourself off the ground, right? And we'll deep dive into some of I guess the inner workings of some of these topics, because we want people to have that opportunity of, yes, you can hear it, but then how do I do it, right? So Pillar Mindset's going to be a fun way to be able to share some of what's happening in here, and
I did see that, by the way. So congrats on that. Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes. And yes, I smiled when I thought of what you name that, and going back to our pillars, and you brushed on them lightly, but I think even in this setting, it's worth talking about them just a moment.
Mhm.
But you know, all day, every day, you go to the next seminar or you go to the next session that you're learning something about, and you're
Mhm.
trying to bring it all back. And um, where does this fit in our business? Where does this fit in our organization? And being able to say, okay, look, these are the pillars to what are helping us to be successful. And one of them being, these are things we're not going to negotiate on. These are how we think.
Mhm.
And being proud of them and speaking of them and putting them down and actually having them on a piece of paper and saying, hey, no negotiation here. We're going to do these things.
Mhm.
And we're inviting everybody. I mean, not in, it's an invitation, but it's also a demand. This is the way we're going to do our things here. Uh, that's one. That's the pillars. And so, yeah, it's super to hear that you're taking the concept and you're formulating it and you're bringing it up digitally and moving it forward. So that's cool.
Thank you for watching the Live Currency Podcast. If you're enjoying this episode and want to learn more about what we're talking about here, tune into our other channel, Pillar Mindset. On Pillar Mindset, we're breaking down the data, the strategies, and the real-life wins and losses at F&P Group. This is where we will really deep dive into what we're talking about here. Thanks for watching Live Currency Podcast. Like, comment, and subscribe. This is the real talk on what's working, what's failing, and what it takes to win in the restaurant industry. Welcome to Pillar Mindset.
Good stuff.
Yeah, thanks for that. We'll do our best. We're not content creators, right? I'm not a content creator. I don't know how all this works, but I know that learning has changed my life, obviously, and I think that's important for people to have that perspective. But sometimes it's easy to compare, and we don't really like doing that. I think there's even another saying about comparing is the quickest way to being unhappy, right? Because you start looking at things with a different eye. But for our journey, father and son, I was uniquely positioned to learn so much because we're 30 years apart, right? So when you're 40 and I'm 10, everything you're learning at 40, I mean, I can see it, feel it, I can name the books, but you were ripping through everything that you were learning, and I was right there learning that because in the car rides you were telling it to me, et cetera. And so the concepts work in the business and on the business. There's so many different things that you learned, and then at 45 I'm there 15, and then you're 50 and I'm 20. And so I got to start my career with a lot of learnings that you were learning at that time, and I think it's one, I'm very fortunate to have that, but two, it's a little bit more of a sense of responsibility because I felt I had a lot of the information that you were learning along the way, right? And so it's one, I'm grateful, but two, it's challenging, right? Because you do have so many different things, and it's not so cookie cutter and simple, right? And so with the new channel and with this project itself, we just know that our gut sentiment is that it's been good to us. Live Currency has been great to us. Pillars has been able to do what we do. We feel tremendously blessed to be able to serve the products that we do and work with the brands that we do and do what we do day in and day out. And if it like you said, if it helps 1, 2, 3 or people in life, then that's enough, right?
Yeah,
and
that's really good. Well, I'm glad you did listen. And sometimes as parents, we think, the kid's not listening to us and stuff. But you and your sister both listened in spades, and thank you for that. This is one aspect of what we do. And one of the things you've heard me say many times, and today wouldn't be complete if I didn't swerve into it real quick. But and I'm reminded by it when you talked about comparing and by doing that how perhaps you go down this other rabbit hole where is it enough, do you measure up, etc. But this idea that all of us are doing the same thing in life. We're all, and don't laugh at me when I say it, you've heard it enough, but we're all juggling those 5 balls,
Mhm.
And this is one that I didn't. I learned it. I don't know what book or where I read it, but uh, again, whether you're a stay-at-home mom or la abuela at home that's doing her part so that uh, the things that she's teaching, like mine did to us, you're having an impact. You're impacting one another, but yet they're doing the same thing that me as a business person is doing today. Or truthfully, I imagine even pick whatever most successful business person or the people up in Congress and stuff. We're all people. We're all pretty much doing the same thing and juggling those balls. Not to leave it unsaid, but we've got our family that's important and we got to be taken care of, and our friends, our own health and how we're doing and our spirituality, and then of course work, and to carry that all the way through. The learning lesson there was the idea that while we're all juggling those balls and trying to keep them all up in the air and doing great in each aspect of our lives in those balls, that some of those balls can get scuffed up if you drop them. Some of them might even shatter. So when you're sitting there talking about listening as a 10-year-old or a 20-year-old or whatever, it does cross my mind that, geez, hopefully I wasn't, just business, because, that's all work. And I must have been, because you heard it all and everything. But along the way, I'm hopeful and I believe that there was quite a bit of the, Little League and the football run through signs and never missing a game that you guys were involved in, you or your sister, and making sure that we're taking care of that family ball as well. The trying along the way to know that we got to stay healthy and take care of ourselves and take care of one another, and yeah, that spirituality, whatever it is for you, but that you have it and that's a solid situation. Solid rock, a place where you can go, like we've said. But anyway,
yeah, that's great.
That.
Yeah, shout out Edinburgh Panthers. I used to Edinburgh Panthers when I was like 8 years old. I don't know how old I was. Or McAllen Hotshots. Those are great memories. So it can be F&P or it can be something else. I know you've got a lot going on still. You still are very, very engaged in a lot of different projects. But what excites you the most right now?
Well, I mentioned a little while ago that I went to the state of the city, and the table I sat at this time is the Hidalgo County Regional Mobility Authority, and I took on serving as one of the directors. I'm one of 7. It is the governor appointee as the chairman of the RMA. This is a great organization that has done a lot of things having to do with roads and transportation and connectivity in our county. But it's a terrific tool, and I'm learning about it every day. I was asked to do that, and I'm like, nope, we've already done plenty of give back to the community kind of things. It's somebody else's time, somebody else's turn. But in the end, prayed about it, and Laurie and I decided, and she was already doing something with the Driscoll Children's Hospital and serving on that board as their president now of the development board. And I said, okay, she's busy doing that. We're trying to juggle all these balls and do all the right things, but as it relates to work and giving back to the community that's been so good for us, we've tried to do that all along the way. This is one of the newest things, and so I'm spending a lot of time doing that right now. But even that, it's like you alluded to it earlier, but they say, well, what exactly is that? What is the thing you're involved with now? That Tia's asked, no le entiendo, mijo. I don't know what that is, but good luck.
Me neither.
The governor told you that must be nice or important or something. And I chuckle, but It is. It's building a road, right? But I look at it just like what we're doing here in our business and what you guys are doing now every day. We're impacting people's lives. Imagine the road gets built, the lives that you touch there, because you're really, it's all about economic development. And like when I served as the chamber president or the EDC president or whatever, you're changing your community. And it's kind of fitting that I came from an event today uh, uh, where it was all about community, and you get to see, because they're putting it up on the screen, you know, how blessed we are to live not only in the country we live in. And I know that can get real political, and people have, and you're entitled, and thank goodness. But one of the things that's so great about this country is that you can have those opinions. But we live in the greatest, in my opinion, country in the world, and in the, yeah, greatest state in the country. And our region right here is just phenomenal. If you want to do something like what we're doing right now and stop and reflect on how it was when we came here nearly 40 years ago, and to see what's happening today, like with the state of the
Yeah.
city, it's like, yeah, this is fantastic. Some really good things are happening.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're doing that. Um, Still involved with, and I thank you again for
The coffee.
the coffee here in a Greater State Bank cup. But people ask me about that. I do. I'm one of the directors there. I happen to the chair the board for Greater State Bank, a small community bank that started from back where we came from, the Falfurrias Fremont area. And that too has just been such a wonderful experience to learn from. And when you're talking about, just like we do, and you know this, and I talked about Mr. Del Barrio Fred, that for so many years, uh, well, those are the McDonald's folks over there, and obviously we're customers. They do a great job, and hopefully he comes and gets a conito or blizzard or hamburger every now and then over here.
Yeah.
We do ours. I mean, it's so awesome that you invite him in and you engage and you're having a conversation, and we recognize back to all of us being people, you know. Well, in that industry, in our industry, the food and people industry, yeah, you have competitors. You have. Um, I remember when we first started. I don't know that I've told you this story, but at that first store in Far, I remember one of those tios, because you hear so much from the grandmas and the tios and stuff. But one of the tios is, "Hey, mijo, ese Whataburger, that's a Whataburger. You sure you want to put your business right here next to your Dairy Queen, next to the Whataburger?" And then later I did learn that, or it was alleged that it was like the number one Whataburger in the valley right there in that intersection, including one over in Brownsville. But I thought, in my mind, is okay, well, if that's a big going business, then there must be people in the area. Yeah, I'm going to put my little business next door, and we just got to do good enough, uh, and serve the customer with what we have to serve in a way that let them do what they do and stuff. Um, they'll come to us as well, and from that one little store, uh, everything that we're blessed with and are able to say that we've done started right there. So yeah, it was okay to be right by there. How did I swerve into that, and why is okay with a small community bank? There's so many great banks, so many great community banks, even right here in our region. But to me, that creates opportunity for people, for business people. You have choices. There's competition amongst the banks themselves. But for the most part, shout out to all the great banks that are doing terrific. And we happen to believe that this little community bank, especially now, is beginning to get more and more traction, and it's got some a great future, and real excited. So that's one of the other things we're doing right now. Um, Among also trying to mix in plenty of the family ball, and as you know, now being the age that I am at 63, um, got the Lola RV, and we're taking the family trip and getting to go with your grandma and grandpa, Laurie's parents, from time to time, because and enjoy, and take them and get on the road with them, and uh, taking them up north to the casino and things like that. So we're doing a bit of that. So having just a wonderful time, and probably um our you know Well, when you're asking me what am I doing now and what occupies our time and we're enjoying doing is, well, I love being Wito. So being grandma and grandpa is a beautiful stage of our life, and that's pretty cool.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
very neat.
Yeah. You talked about the Regional Mobility Authority. You talked about the bank, and I know that's kind of a different role there, but I mean, just to give you perspective for the question, but D. Wilson Construction, Federal Reserve Bank Board, all the different things that you've gotten into. Why serve? Why do it?
Well, I think that kind of goes back to life currency a little bit. That's where life currency, you know, grew out from, was how do you give to someone that has so much value and you can't do it on their paycheck, so you give it to them in other ways. Well, similarly, I mean, we don't exist without the community. We don't exist without all the wonderful people out there doing what they do every day. And it's amazing. It is amazing, from the first responders that keep our streets safe, and when we have had, by the way, a fire in one of the restaurants, and you've got the local fire department and the people showing up, and or the doctors going up and down the halls of not just the children's hospital that we're very passionate about and active with, but all the hospitals, that to see what the nurses, the CNAs, the doctors, what everybody does every day, and recognizing that again, we're all trying to do the same thing, where they're taking care of their children. They have hopes, they have dreams, and um, just balancing those balls in such a way that you give yourself time to be able to, quote, give some life currency to the community and giving back. I mean, there's so many people that give so much that it just would feel wrong to not try to do our part. And that's always been just uh, something that we've always tried to do. Yeah, going back to your grandma and grandpa, grandma always taught your mom and she me, and it's something that I think we need to carry on in our culture and in our people, is don't show up empty-handed. And so, yes, that has to do with when you're going to visit the tia, or you're going over to see somebody. Well, um, here's a DQ cake. I mean, that's one a little plug for us.
Yeah.
We could take them un pastelito, or you don't show up empty. Well, okay, similar here. We've showed up. We've been blessed. We're so successful, but we don't want to be empty-handed. It's it's our way of giving back. And plus, there is no question, and selfishly, and people will tell you that maybe sounds good and everything, but also selfishly, and I think even smartly, you find a way to integrate all that into what you're doing too. And there's never been anything that I've done, that I've given, that doesn't have ways that come back and just has paid us immensely.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Very interesting. Well, speaking of don't come empty-handed, the team here at Life Currency has done something, that we thought was kind of cool. So I'd take this opportunity to extend a gift from our team to you, sir.
This is nice. Super cool. Can I open it?
Please do. Yeah.
Okay.
Just a little something.
Oh, my goodness. Somebody here. Wow, this is super neat, Bob. That's so cool. I have an affinity for a gentleman's knife. And
yeah,
this is really, really cool. I got to figure out how I'm going to get it out. There we go.
There you go.
There it is. Wow, this is super good. Thanks, team. All of y'all. This is super, super nice.
Did you see it? Yeah, you can open up the blade there a little bit.
Oh, wow. That's just really, really awesome. Tree and
no, here.
And on this side.
Yeah, there we go. Yep. So we'll show you real quick, but on On this blade here, Life Currency Podcast.
Wow, I didn't even see that part.
Well,
I can
I'll put
see
it
it
in the
now
light
with the
now.
light.
Yeah,
okay, that's
so,
cool.
Life Currency Podcast there. And if you come down here and open up the other one there, we got Robert Lozano there for you. So,
man, that is so cool.
yeah, I know you enjoy knives, and the team wanted to do something. It's just a little gesture, but we thought you'd enjoy that, and thanks for all the support.
That's too cool. And what's one of the things I taught you?
A man always carries a pocket knife.
Well, you carry a pocket knife, but also one of the things, and what I was thinking about, but I'm gonna have to quedarte mal. I can't. I'm supposed to not.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, yeah. You can't receive a knife as a gift. So anybody got a penny that you can lend my dad?
I'm supposed to give a penny, but here I've got at least a little bill. So
shoot, yeah, better than a penny. I'll take the $20 bill. Yeah. So for those watching, going, what the hell is happening? Not supposed to receive a knife as a gift. You have to purchase it. So when somebody gifts you a knife, you got to give them at least a penny. Today is my lucky day.
That was one of the Theos or grandpa, maybe somebody somewhere along the way mentioned that, and I'm sure I've never stopped to look that up and wonder what that's all about. But I've always done it. But this is super nice. It's something that's super cool, and yeah, I'll carry it proudly. Thank you. Does that mean we're done?
No, well, we're getting close here. Let me do this if you don't mind.
No?
I'll take this out real quick, but. I thought it was pretty cool. The team got excited. We get excited for every episode. We get excited just to one. It's for you to come down here cool. Is their little kitchen towel or golf towel, whatever you want to use it as. Nice. But it means a lot for you to be here. It means a lot for you to support the team, and I think we're having a lot of fun learning from others. I mean, we're taking in a lot of this it almost feels selfish. We get to sit down with you in your busy schedule and learn everything that we learned today, and it feels like a great honor. And so, for you to be here and support us, we want to make sure that we don't show up empty-handed. So that's our little piece there. And to open the way, every story begins with a first cut. Before there was direction, there was a decision to open a path where none existed. This blade honors the act of beginning, of cutting through uncertainty, of starting the work before the outcome was known. Life Currency did not start as an answer. It started as a question and the courage to pursue it. No path exists until someone is willing to open it. No legacy continues unless someone chooses to begin again. Thank you for cutting the ribbon of this Life Currency story, for opening the way forward. From us here at FMP Media.
That's awesome. Thank you a bunch.
Oh, thank you, Dad.
Give you a big abrazo. That's really neat. Well, I really am. I'm floored at what it is that the team is doing and that y'all are doing. Y'all have, going back to the dichos, and again, there's so many of them, but one of the ones that impacted me so much, and I see it living out here. And that's why I say hats off, compliments to you, all of y'all, to your whole team, all the guys and the gals that are making FMP Media possible, and the FMP group in general.
Thank you.
But that is what I see living out, and the one that comes to mind is I think a Martin Luther King one, but the one that says something about if you're called to be a street sweeper, you should sweep streets, even as Michelangelo did his work, or Beethoven did his work. You should sweep streets so well that all the hosts of heaven stop and say, here lived a good street sweeper. And you guys are throwing it all into what you do. I think it's awesome. I want to compliment you, march on, and all the success in the world. And I hope you touch many, many lives.
Thanks. I don't think I've ever gotten emotional about street sweeping, but that was pretty powerful. Well, this is really special for us. If you will indulge us, it's totally up to you. But we got a few beverages back here. We would like to do a cheers with you, if you don't mind.
Sure, no, that's
all right.
great.
What pick your poison. I'm probably gonna let you pick Dos Equis because I know you like Dos Equis. But what would you like?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
All right, let's do it. Okay.
Very good. It's been awesome, guys. Thanks so much. Nah.
Okay.
Nice.
You've taught me a lot of things, and one of the things is every man should know a joke and a toast.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully you came ready for your toast. I'll let you say it. Whatever you want to toast to, the future, whatever you got going on. It's up to you, Dad.
Well, I kind of already said it, but here's to touching people's lives, to knowing that all of us get up every day and you do what you do because, you're trying to improve your very own life. But along the way, so many people touches ours, and here's to all the people's lives that you'll be touching. So cheers.
Salute.
Mm-hmm. Well, very good.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
We hope you find some time to come visit us again.
Yeah, I will. It was a blast. Thanks again.
Yes, sir.
Love you.
Love you too.
Welcome to the Life Currency Podcast. I'm your host, Bob Lozano, a show that explores success, growth, and opportunity in the restaurant industry. A restaurant podcast by restaurant people, powered by F&P Media.